everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jill, otherwise known as the Enlightened Target, and this channel is devoted to narcissistic abuse, awareness and recovery, parental alienation, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and anything and everything associated with those three main topics. In today's video, we are going to explore the question that so many people ask, which is, what about couples therapy? Could it possibly work with a narcissist? And while each person will have to make up your own mind on this topic, I personally am not a fan of this idea, and I'm going to give you my top reasons why going to couples therapy with a narcissist can be tricky or even downright dangerous for a victim. If you're new to my channel, I would like to take a moment and welcome you and invite you to please subscribe and be sure and hit that notification bell because I put out new videos every week. Also, if you are interested in private one-on-one narcissistic abuse recovery coaching with me or group coaching on Wednesday nights, please visit my website or send me an email. Both are linked in the description below. So today we are talking about what you need to know before you consider going to couples therapy with a narcissist. And the first thing you need to understand is that narcissists are proficient actors. They are charming and they are convincing, and it's no different for a therapist who is being dazzled and charmed by a narcissist. Unfortunately, all people are vulnerable to falling victim to the narcissist's charm, swagger, and act, and therapists are no exception to this rule. I have heard story after story of how a victim of narcissistic abuse went to couples therapy, and by the time the sessions were over, the victim was even more confused about what is actually happening than before they went to therapy. You must remember, narcissists subject their victims to extreme levels of psychological abuse and manipulation tactics. Gaslighting and blame shifting is always a part of narcissistic abuse. So the victims are usually very insecure about what is real and true and what isn't. That insecurity can be interpreted by the therapist as responsibility, accountability, or blame, when the reality is nothing could be further from the truth. And the confusion is stemming from severe levels of gaslighting. Therefore, if this happens, then the therapist can become an active participant in further abusing the victim and leave the victim even more confused than they were before they came into the therapist's office. A second thing you need to consider before stepping foot into a therapist's office with a narcissist is, does this therapist have real-life experience with narcissistic abuse? Because most therapists do not, and dealing with this level of pathology would require either a very high level of intense education in narcissistic abuse, which doesn't exist yet to my knowledge, or personal experience dealing with these people. Most therapists do not know how to recognize someone with NPD, nor the behaviors of a victim who is suffering from complex PTSD. Therefore, it's highly probable that the therapist will get it wrong. Many times, they get it exactly backwards. And again, this puts the victim in a very, very vulnerable position to being further psychologically confused and abused. So even if you get the narcissist to agree to going to therapy, which is rare in and of itself, as they do not believe they need therapy, but it does not mean under any circumstances that you will find a qualified, educated therapist to actually help you. A third thing that you will need to consider before going to couples therapy with a narcissist is the fact that a narcissist's fundamental belief systems are completely different from a normal person's, and certainly different from a highly empathetic person, which most victims of narcissistic abuse will be. Narcissists do not genuinely self-reflect about their terrible behavior. Narcissists sincerely believe that they are superior people who are absolutely entitled to behave any way they choose. For actual change to occur in a person's behavior, there must be a sincere desire to change. And to date, I have never met or heard of a case where a narcissist wholeheartedly and sincerely wanted to change. Possibly they decide to change due to negative consequences that they are experiencing due to their abusive behavior, but it does not come from a real desire to change. Without that, a victim really needs to think about, is it actually even a possibility that someone like this can change? Because in my opinion, accountability and remorse are necessary components to produce change in any human being. Another very important thing for a victim to understand is that historically, narcissists have used the therapist's office for two things. The first is to further gaslight, psychologically manipulate, and confuse the victim. And number two is to learn more psychological terminologies and tactics that maybe they didn't know, that they can now understand and incorporate into the abuse that they are already subjecting the victim to. The research suggests that people with NPD are very difficult to treat and that therapy tends to make things worse, which is the very last thing that a victim in this predicament needs. Next, something a victim should take into consideration before going to couples therapy with a narcissist is that typically a narcissist doesn't genuinely care that what they are doing is abusive or wrong. You must remember, narcissistic personality disorder is a permanent personality and character disorder. This is not a mental illness. The narcissist knows right from wrong. They just don't have the capacity to care about the damage and the harm that they cause from their abusive behaviors to everyone around them. So victims need to really ponder the question, is there any hope? Is going to couples therapy going to have a shot at helping someone who is hardwired this way and whose personality is fully formed? Is this an investment, both mentally and financially, that has the odds that are worth involving yourself in this? And would your time, effort, and energy be better spent focusing on your personal healing journey? Another critical component for victims to consider before going to couples therapy with a narcissist is most times the victim will be suffering from symptoms of complex PTSD from the abuse they've been subjected to. Complex PTSD is not in the DSM yet. Hopefully it will be in the next edition, but it is not at this point in time. Therefore, many therapists do not even know what it means to have Cptsd, nor are they familiar with the behaviors of someone suffering from this disorder. People with Cptsd can be highly reactive, understandably so, but if a therapist or a professional is ignorant to what they are looking at, they can interpret these behaviors as being something other than situational. They can think there is something deeper going on with the victim. Many times, Cptsd can look like a personality disorder. And as you can imagine, if a professional gets it wrong in diagnosing a victim of narcissistic abuse who is suffering from complex PTSD, it could and many times will have a devastating outcome for the victim. So again, it's critical that victims find a highly educated therapist in narcissistic abuse and complex trauma. And at this point in time, they are very far and few between. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Also follow me on Instagram. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching, everyone.